CONvergence? On YouTube? Awesome!
For those of you who have not yet met Seanan McGuire, aka Mira Grant, not only does she write fabulous political thrillers set 20 years after the zombie apocalypse as Mira Grant, she also writes the October Day hard-boiled fantasy novels for doll. How did you originally come up with the idea of Toby?
I got stuck on the Moon Bridge in Golden Gate Park's Japanese Tea Gardens, which is a large bridge. It goes pretty much straight up. Once you hit the top, your choices are learn to fly, jump into the lake, or find the strength to somehow descend down a vertical slope. I chose option 4, which was cling to the railing and cry. And I watched the koi swing around and eventually decided to go home and write a multi-volume urban fantasy series as a form of therapy. I was a folklore major at UC Berkeley, and that pretty much meant that for a long time, and including up to the present day, I would look at just about anything and figure out what fairy tale it actually sourced back into.
When you were growing up, did you have a particular folklore tradition that just ate your brain, that was your gateway drug, or...?
Shakespeare was my gateway drug. My aunt decided to test a child psychology theory using me, which was that children decide things are easy or hard, not based on actual difficulty level, but based on what they are told by the adults around them. So as I was getting ready to go to kindergarten, she told me I was going to be expected to be able to read and write simple poetry, and that we were going to start out with the simplest poetry of all, the sonnet. Because all you need to be able to do to write a sonnet is simple A-B rhymes and count to 10. So you count to 10, you end in a word. You count to 10 again, end in another word. Count to 10, end in a word that rhymes with the first word. It's very simple when you break it down. So at the age of 6, I was writing technically perfect sonnets, terrible sonnets, but they followed the rules precisely.
When you went into 2nd grade, did she start you in sestinas?
3rd. Villanelles were 2nd grade. But it does mean that in kindergarten and 1st grade I started working my way through Shakespeare because my aunt kept insisting that these were the oldest stories of all and they were very, very important. And if I could read Thoroughbred High and horse books, I could read Shakespeare because there were horses in Shakespeare.
That is so perfect 7-year-old logic.
It is. It's flawless 7-year-old logic. So Shakespeare was my gateway drug into the Brothers Grimm, into child's ballads. I got hold of volume 3 of the Arne Thompson Index to Folktales when I was like 8. I'm still not sure how that happened. It was only volume 3, so it's E through J, and read the whole thing. And the Arne Thompson is an index to 90 unrelated books of folktales. It's just the index. And so having this index, I was coming up with the most amazing, bizarre stories to explain the things that would appear in the index. And that sort of primed the, if you can't find it, figure it out.
So when you started working on the Toby books and building that particular world building, how did you decide which bits of folklore you were going to choose and which bits that you thought you would be introducing to the audience who might not be familiar with them?
So the one really immutable rule of Toby's universe, and it is non-negotiable, there are no supernatural beings that interact with the Fae in any way that are not descended from Oberon, Mab, and Titania. Other things may exist, but if they do, they think the Fae are completely crazy cakes, and they have nothing whatsoever to do with them. So I was only able to take the pieces of folklore that lend themselves to being connected to a very British Isles base, to the Oberon, Mab, and Titania thing. It is unfortunately Anglo-centric because of that, but I had to have a core point of origin, and that was the one that I had the most familiarity to build on.